Perfect, just in time. And who would like to read the roll, please?
Chairman, I'll go ahead.
Chairman Larry Gerstein.
Present.
Cicero here. Omar Malik.
Here.
David Zobel.
Here.
Dawn Weber.
Here.
We've got 5 members here.
Great. And then we'd like to read the public hearing.
Chairman, I'll go ahead. The Board of Adjustment of the City of Olivet, Missouri will hold a public hearing on Thursday, December 27th, 2021 at 6:00 p.m. Central Time. The meeting will be conducted via Zoom webinar. The link is available on the city's website at www.olivetmo.com. The meeting is regarding the following application. The petitioner is Andy Cohen with Kennerly Custom Homes. The property addresses are 9325 Kenneth Place, listed as Carol Jean Krause property, and 9327 Kenneth Place, listed as Carol J. Krause ETAL property. The zoning of the property is SR Single Family Residential District. Before the board are really two appeal requests. The first appeal is the appeal decision of the building official, section 400-240, variation of lot size standards. Paragraph B states that for the purposes of determining the average lot width and average area, only those lots which are within the SR district and which are included within the same subdivision as this lot shall be considered. As used in this section, a subdivision shall mean a tract composed of a minimum of 6 lots depicted on a duly recorded plat. Where a lot is not located within the subdivision, all lots within the SR district and which are within 200 feet shall be considered. The building official has determined that 9325 and 9327 Kenneth Place are part of duly recorded plat known as the G.W. Bernice Estate subdivision that consists of 6 additional residential lots, and thus only the residential lots within the G.W. Bernice Estate subdivision are to be considered to determine the average width and average area. The second appeal are 2 options based on how the decision regarding the building official is made by the board. The first would be, should the appeal request 1 confirm the decision of the building official, the variation of lot size standards under section 400-240 subparagraph 8.2 would permit a minimum lot area of 13,125 square feet and a minimum lot width of 67.7 feet, and in no case permitted to be less than 60 feet in width. The petitioner seeks an area variance from section 400-240A2 to permit a subdivision consisting of 3 new single-family lots with an area of 7,650 square feet and a width of 51 feet. Option B, should the appeal request 1 overrule the decision of the building official, the petitioner calculates the variation of lot size standards under section 400-240-8.2 to permit a minimum lot area of 9,349 square feet and a minimum lot width of no less than 60 feet. The petitioner seeks an area variance from section 400-240-8.2 to permit a subdivision consisting of 3 new single-family lots with an area of 7,650 square feet and a width of 51 square feet.
Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, the public hearing is not Thursday, December 27th, rather Monday, December 27th.
Correct. My apologies for the date.
Okay, Carlos, can you get sworn in and,
Sure.
or no, just do your, yeah, whatever, if you need. to get
Real
sworn
quickly,
in
we're
first.
conducting a virtual meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. There will be, you'll be able to participate Zoom via live stream. There's an opportunity for public comments prior to the vote. If anybody has any questions outside of the board members, please show the raise of hands, which is typically located on the lower part of the Zoom window, right in the middle. Staff will transfer you as a panelist as the chair's request. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please note your name and address. The city urges you to have your video on when you speak. All speakers before the board during the public hearing must be sworn in. Public comments may be submitted in writing and read aloud by staff. And again, we appreciate your patience. There may be a short delay in the live stream or transferring individuals back and forth. Petitioners and presentations. All reports and plans are accessible via the link on the agenda. The staff provides an overview of the proposed appeals before the board. The applicant addresses staff comments and questions, and all votes are conducted as roll call votes. Procedures for zoning board of adjustment. Their jurisdiction is to hear in instances when there is an error made by the building official. That is one we're looking at tonight. Interpretations of the chapter that may impact the actual zoning map or boundaries, to permit a public service corporation utility, to permit reconstruction of a non-conforming structure, and finally to the authority to grant area and use variances. During the consideration of an area or a use variance, the board must find that there's a unique condition to the property, whether it's the configuration, its topography, or some other exceptional circumstance not created by the owner or the applicant, and that strict application would result in practical difficulties, and that the variance would not unreasonably affect adjacent properties, would maintain and observe the spirit of the zoning ordinance, secure public safety, welfare, and do substantial justice, and the variance would satisfy the additional criteria under section 41650C, and that is preserve light, air, space, and ensure the compliance with the city's comprehensive plan. Review procedures. Each appeal is heard separately. In this case, the board has one appeal. The public hearing will consist of presentations, first by staff, followed by questions and answers, then the applicants, followed by questions and answers, and then any public comments. The board will then deliberate after the public hearing. The board may ask for some additional comments, whether from staff or the applicant. The board will motion and take a vote. All votes will be in the affirmative. You need 4 votes to be granted a variance. And all statements are sworn testimony during the public hearing. So note, anything that's submitted in the public hearing also serves as records for any further court or litigation following the decision of the board.
Carlos, should you be sworn in?
I am ready if the board's ready for my testimony.
Okay. Larry, want me to do it? Larry, want me to do it?
Please, yes, please.
Carlos, do you swear that the evidence you should give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Chairman, we received an application to subdivide property located on Kenneth Place. Kenneth Place is located just south of Olive Boulevard, right before Price Crossing. To access Kenneth Place, you use what is Dolores Avenue, which is a terminus street, and Kenneth Place has a wing on the western side of Dolores that runs west. Both are cul-de-sac streets off of Olive. And the petitioner has 2 properties under contract at the far end of Kenneth Place. These are shown here in the vicinity map and here in the aerial. What the petitioner is proposing to do is subdivide the 2 properties they have under contract into 3 single-family lots with detached single-family homes in each. In order to do so, the petitioner needs to submit an application for land development, which they have. They've submitted a application for a preliminary subdivision plat. It's illustrated here, and you have copies of the application and what they termed as the conceptual site plan submittal. I believe it's dated August 8th, 2021. As part of your packets or your paper packets. In the review, staff denied the petition application based that the proposed 3 lots would fall under, which are zoned SR single family residential district, would not meet the minimum criteria under the SR district and fail to comply with what we term as a variation of lot standards under the SR district, which I'll explain in just a second. That being said, an email was sent denying the application. The petitioner has submitted an application to appeal the way the interpretation was made on how the variation was calculated. And secondly, in order to further this subdivision, they would need a area variance both on the overall lot area and the lot width. So here are the two properties that the petitioner has under contract off of Kenneth Place. Olive Boulevard kind of runs here on the top and the dashed red line. The axis is off of Dolores, and then Kenneth Place kind of comes off on the western side. The two properties are zoned SR Single Family Residential District. The SR Single Family Residential District is everything you see here in this light yellow. The areas to the north, which are pink, are considered COR, commercial office retail. The blue is mixed use, and the gray is light industrial. Under the SR Single Family Residential District, you're allowed to construct detached single family homes. The minimum lot sizes for the SR Single Family District are 100 feet in width, 150 feet in depth, and 15,000 square feet. So if somebody is creating a brand new subdivision, each individual lot within that district, within that subdivision, should meet those minimum standards. However, there is a section in the code that recognizes that not in many places, subdivisions and neighborhoods and all of that comply with the 15,000 square foot, 100 foot width or 150 feet. And to maintain that neighborhood consistency, there is a section 400-240, which is called variation lot size standard. Under that section, they'll allow you to identify the properties you would like to subdivide and then run a ring of 200 feet around the boundaries of those properties. And then you calculate an average under a certain method that's provided under the ordinance. Within that 200 feet, you can only include properties that are zoned SR Single Family Residential District. So again, I go back to the zoning maps that only the properties under that are in yellow would be able to be utilized in that variation calculation. You calculate an average lot area, an average lot width, and an average, and there is no impact on the lot depth so long it's no less than 100 feet. And as long as that lot area exceeds 6,000 square feet, and as long as that average lot width is more than 60 feet or more, you can consider just those lots to determine your average, and you can subdivide property so long as you equal or exceed that average. And again, this allows for areas where you have small lots to continue to have small lots, like in the Hilltop, Collingwood areas, Chevy Chase subdivisions. We have other subdivisions on Harvest, Cherry Tree, Ingleton Lane, where the original lots were much smaller than the 15,000 square feet that would be required under the current zoning. And to maintain that area or that character, you're permitted to continue to utilize a variation standard, but again, under those certain requirements. The other thing that you do when you do this 200-foot circumference, that if the lots are within a subdivision that consists of 6 or more, you can only utilize those lots that are within that subdivision. Again, the intent here is to maintain that neighborhood character. So if there are lots that are outside of that subdivision that consists of 6 or more, you don't utilize that. The goal of this variation standard is to maintain consistency with the surroundings, especially if it's part of a duly recorded plat or subdivision. So in calculating, when reviewing the application for this subdivision, majority of the properties off of Dolores in here run anywhere from 50 to 60 feet in width and are well below the 15,000 square foot lot area. However, in the review of the listing of properties that the applicant provided, and you'll see that in the conceptual site plan that was submitted by the petitioner, they included all properties on Dolores and all properties on Kenneth Zone SR Single Family Residential District. When reviewing that, we found that the two properties that the petitioner has access to, and that's these two here, are part of the subdivision known as the G.W. Burney Estate Subdivision. And when doing a search online on county records, 6 additional properties, in addition to the 2 that the petitioner has under contract, are also part of the G.W. Burney Estate Subdivision. Therefore, based on subparagraph B here, when you're calculating that variation, you're only allowed to use those 6 lots that are within that subdivision and within 200 feet and zoned SR single family. Therefore, when I denied the application, I noted that the way they were calculating for the subdivision was incorrect. And they're contesting that my decision on that is wrong, and that's okay. I understand where they're coming from in there, but based on the information that was made available and that I have, and by the code determination, if there are 6 lots within a duly recorded plat, just like that are noted here in the G.W. Burney Estate Subdivision, I can only use these 6 lots. And if you notice, these lots are considerably larger than the lots off of Dolores. So they throw off that average. The average calculations I came up with were much larger than those and they had calculated when you threw in properties off of Dolores Avenue. That being said, there are 2 differences in the way this calculation is being conducted. The way I, as staff, have interpreted based on the code, and then the way they have interpreted based on what they submitted in the conceptual site plan. With those, you have 2 different lot averages, one over 13,000 square feet, one about 7,000 square feet, 9,000 square feet. Regardless of what decision that the board made, in order for them to subdivide those properties into the 3 that are proposed here, they would need an area variance. And that's the second component of what the board is asking, is being requested to do. First is to determine whose numbers are correct. And then secondly, once that determination is made, then a request is being submitted to request a area variance in regards to the lot area and lot width to make these 3 lots available.
The lots as drawn are 51 feet
Correct.
width.
So the way I calculated is I only included the 6 lots off of Kenneth that were part of the G.W. Burney Estate subdivision. Their lot areas are listed here. Their lot widths are listed here. There's a certain calculation that you run through. The end result was that the variation would allow a lot size of 13,125 square feet. Their lot sizes were well below that. And then the average lot width would be 67.7 feet. Their calculations for lot size request was 51 feet. Under the plans that you have that were submitted by the applicant, their conceptual site plan identifies those same 6 lots in the G.W. Burney Estate subdivision, along with the additional properties on Kenneth and properties off of Dolores Avenue. It almost looks like a neighborhood when you drive down there. You really can't distinguish, G.W. Burney Estate with the properties off of Dolores Avenue. So they calculated all those properties as they shown here in the 2 tables. They came out with a lot area of 9,349 square feet. Again, I'm saying that based on just the 6 lots that I can use, it's only 13,125 square feet. Their calculations came up with an average lot width of 55 55.55 feet. Again, they're using properties off of Dolores along Kenneth beyond the original 6 of the GW Bernay Estates subdivision. My calculations identified that the minimum lot width, that average would be 67.7 feet. Regardless of what interpretation is used, the code does note that in no case should a lot width be less than 60 feet in width. So even under their calculations, their average was 55.55. Just because you came up with that average doesn't necessarily mean that you can maintain that average. The code specifically says you shall not have anything less than 60 feet in width, nor anything less than 6,000 square feet in area. Their calculations came up with an area in excess of 6,000, which is okay. But a lot width that was below an average that was below the 60 feet in width. That is not okay. The code does not consider anything less than 60 feet in width. Here's some aerial views of the two parcels here. This is looking north. You can see the commercial areas that are off of Olive. And then this is looking west. Part of one portion of the property is improved. There's an existing single family home. On the other property, there's a shed. So this kind of uses a combined lot at this time. Some findings to kind of note in the review is that there are 2 existing lots that are before you, 9325 and 9327 Kenneth Place. And both lots are part of the GW Bernays Estate subdivision. Adjacent to these properties and within 200 feet and also zoned SR single family residential are 6 additional lots that are also part of the GW Bernays Estate subdivision. The other identified lots of the 29 listed in the petitioner's application are part of the Olivet Terrace subdivision. And because there are 6 lots in GW Bernay, which is part of the same subdivision as 9325 and 9327, the code doesn't recognize or allow the use of the other lots off of Olivet Terrace. Being that there are at least 6 lots within the same subdivision as the subject properties, only the lots within that subdivision are used to calculate the variation. In no terms, however, can the average lot area be less than 6,000 square feet and the average lot width be less than 60 feet. Thus, a minimum 180 feet of frontage would be required by code to create 3 lots. The 2 properties combined have an area of 23,344 square feet, but a combined frontage of 155.63 feet in width, well below the 180-foot minimum that would be necessary to create 3 lots. Based on the calculations performed by staff, the average variation for the minimum lot area would be 13,125 square feet, and the minimum lot width would be 67.7 feet. Based on the petitioner's calculations for the average variation, the minimum lot area would be 9,349 square feet, and the minimum lot width would be 55.55 feet. But in no case can the lot width be less than 60 feet. The 3 lots that are being proposed by the petitioner consist of 7,650 square feet each and have a 51-foot lot width. The board has jurisdictions to determine whether there's an incorrect application of the code, and that's being asked by the board today. It's somewhat frivolous because 1, the code says you can't have less than 60 feet already. 2 is regardless of whose calculations you use, whether it's staff, which is staying within the 6 lots of the GW Bernays subdivision, or that as submitted by the applicant in the concept site plan, the average is still, the proposal for the 3 lots is still below that average. In addition to that, the lot width is still below the 60 foot that's permitted or the average that's calculated both by staff or the applicant. So that's where they're also looking for an area variance. But in this case, an area variance usually kind of needs a hardship. The subdividing the property, there is no hardship in between there. There's not something specific about topography or the terrain or the unique width and shape of the lot. Therefore, it proves kind of difficult to be able to justify an area variance when you're kind of imposing that by trying to get an extra lot out of that existing property. Now, again, I recognize the petitioner's view that when you go down Delorth and you go down Kenneth, the lots are narrow and it looks like one single subdivision, one neighborhood. And these lots would probably maintain that same character. However, the code is the code. First and foremost, the commission needs to consider whose calculations are correct. And then second, based on that consideration of whose calculations are correct, whether if there's any standing for an area variance to allow the subdividing of the three properties. Chairman, hope I explained it as best as I could. I know it's somewhat of a confusing aspect, but that's what the request is before you. I'd be glad to answer any specific questions. I do have items to enter in the record when permitted. Be glad to answer any questions now.
Are there any conditions of the, should I be raising my hand? Is it, I don't know how to,
You can go ahead.
okay. And the way they're drawn, the 51-foot variance width is in there. As I read the regulations, there is no exception to the under 60 foot. So in that case, what is this even before the board for? It can't be at 51 feet. By law, it's less than 60 feet.
And
So
the petitioner has that right to make that request. I can't stop them or say that they can't.
But am I reading the regulations correctly? It says under no case. And then there is a provision that says that under extraordinary circumstances, we could grant that variance.
Correct.
But there's nothing extraordinary about these properties, is there?
From a staff perspective, no, nothing, no findings, or there has not been any evidence submitted that indicate that there's something exceptional or unique.
And if I, as I read through the documents, if they believe that your calculation is incorrect, they have to provide documentation that it is incorrect.
It would be their burden to, if their findings are different than what's being provided by staff.
Have they produced documents to you that?
Not, you have the application, you have their written comments that are part of that application, and the initial conceptual site plan dated, I think it's October 8th, 2021.
Okay, but you have nothing in your record that
Not
suggests
anything beyond that.
that you're in error. Okay, that's all the questions I had. I'd like to hear their interpretation.
Carlos, why? All right, so we have to just, why do we have to decide whose numbers are right if we're not going to allow them to build on less than a 60-foot frontage?
Because they have a right to submit the appeal, and there could be some evidence that I'm not aware of that would be submitted to provide that justification. I can't tell them that they can't do this at all. I can advise them, but I can't stop them.
They may have evidence if, when they're given the opportunity to talk, they may have evidence that you're wrong. That's the only possibility that I can see.
I'm just trying to make it work.
I know.
And I understand why they would do that. I mean, I understand.
I think the intent of the petitioner, and again, I'll let them speak on their behalf, but it was first trying to subdivide that property into 3 lots was going to require an area variance regardless. And that request, I think that there's an understanding from the petitioner that they were going to be seeking for something less than 60 feet in lot width. And they had that right to. What it comes down to, though, is the calculations they presented in the application based on staff findings are incorrect. So the degree of variation that would be necessary would be a lot more than what their calculations were. So I think their view on this is they're looking for a variance to try to subdivide this into 3. I'm not necessarily sure, and I don't want to speak out of terms here or in there, is it whether they care how those calculations were done. That they would have, even if their calculations were correct, they would have still petitioned for a variance.
They're trying to get 3 instead
Correct.
of, it's pretty simple math.
Yes.
They
But
want
what
3.
they submitted to do that, based on my findings, is, hey, but your numbers are wrong. I can't present
Understand,
smaller numbers to the board.
understand.
Carlos? The 2 lots that are on Kenneth Place, before you get to the 6 or 8 lots that are within that burn subdivision, they're 50 feet in width. How are those, how did you get can you explain again how you got the 60-foot width minimum? Is that based on an average? And then those other lots would be considered the other neighborhood, the Olivet Terrace neighborhood?
Mhm. The surrounding properties, of course, are what we would consider legal non-conforming properties. They were created probably under an old ordinance or so in there. So nobody's done any shifting in their lot widths. The 60-foot minimum is a product of the code. When that variation standard was written, and I believe it goes back to 1985, a decision was made that in no case should any new lot be less than 60 feet in width.
Okay.
Now, that being said, there's a good handful of lots in Olivet that are less than 60 feet in width. Our code would permit somebody on a 50-foot lot to tear down their house and rebuild in there. There are some lots that are 45 feet in width. I think that's the most narrowest one that I'm aware of. If they were to tear down their home, they would not be allowed to rebuild. I'd have to petition for a variance or, own just an empty lot. The goal there was to encourage, at some point the lots are too narrow, and to encourage them to either acquire additional property from a neighbor or combine themselves with a neighboring property. So again, the decision was, hey, in Olivet, no new lots less than 60 feet in width. And those that are existing, only those that are 50 feet in width or greater are permitted to continue, to be legal lots of record.
Grandfathered in, okay. But less than that would not be allowed at
Correct.
all. Okay. Well, that's
Carlos,
pretty clear.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Carlos, on Kenneth Place, I see 9321, 9317, 9316, and 9318, which all appear to be all have lot widths of 50 feet. Are those part of a separate tract, or plat, I should say, than the subject parcels?
Yes. And that's
Okay, so-
what's one of the unique things in this area. Somewhere, my assumption would be that GW Bernice Estate subdivision was a larger plot of property that over time got subdivided into smaller areas in there. The 6 lots, and I'm going to go back to the screen share because I think it's easier to see. Somewhere along the way, and I think you should have, let's see, the visual up. What's unique in this area here, I'm going to get a little closer. This street, Dolores Avenue, and this section of Kenneth Place up to the highlighted areas that I'm showing here. are part of a subdivision known as Olivet Terrace. The road Dolores Avenue and the road Kenneth Place, again, up to the highlighted area I have here, is paved and it is a public road right of way. Right along this area, that pavement stops. This road section here that abuts this shaded area all the way up to here is a gravel road and it's private. It's not maintained by the city of Olivet. So again, somewhere, the subdivision, the original subdivision got carved out. You have, improved properties all around it. But these 8 parcels here maintain the G.W. Burney Estates subdivision in there. And, it consists of 8 lots. So it's more than, 6 or more, regardless of those that they have combined. So I don't know if that addresses your question of why these 4 lots here are 50 foot in width. They're reflective of a majority of those lots in that Olivet Terrace subdivision.
Thank you, Carlos.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Carlos? No? All right.
I do, just to clarify, so this builder could actually still put 2 homes here,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Right, there are 2 legal lots of record.
2, but okay.
Mhm.
Can we hear from the applicant if you can have them sworn in?
Real quickly, Chairman, if I can just enter the items for the record.
Oh, please. Thank
And
you.
again, and we do this for the purposes of, again, it's the items that are entered as evidence that would serve purpose if there was any further litigation on this. And we want to make sure that the petition for the land subdivision is submitted. That is the applicant's original request to subdivide the property, both the application and the concept site plan that you use, the conceptual site plan that you have a copy for, that's dated October 8th, 2021. That includes the table and the calculations that were used by the developer. The third item is the denial letter in the form of an email from myself to the petitioner dated November 30th, 2021. Then the variance application and the attachments. There is an attachment or a letter that was provided by the applicant. The public hearing notice, the affidavit of publication that was published in the St. Louis County on December 10th, 2021. That's 15 days prior to this date. The posting and the list of addresses of properties within 185 feet that were notified. That is the minimum notification standard that's required by statute. We notified everybody within 300 feet of the property grounds. The staff report dated December 27th, 2021, including its attachments, this PowerPoint presentation, the City of Olivet Code of Ordinances, including Chapter 400 zoning regulations, and the zoning map of the City of Olivet, and the City of Olivet 2006 Comprehensive Plan and the Olivet Residential Redevelopment and Design Guidelines. So,
Really
Thank
quick,
you.
did you get any of the neighbors providing evidence to you?
we did not get any written inquiries, nor is there anybody that I see in the attendee list
Okay.
that's listed. All right, Chairman, if you're ready, I'll bring
Please.
the petitioners to.
I'll need to get their identification and all before we can swear them in.
Sure. And there should be two gentlemen that are part of the petitioners group. And Andy and Mark, you guys should be on. I don't see the video. Okay, here we go.
Ah, there we go.
Okay, I'll go ahead and swear each of you in separately. Who is it? Andy Cohen?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Do you swear that
can-
the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
yes.
And who is the second? Mark Rubin?
Yes,
Do you swear the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay,
Mr. Wu, Mr. Cohen, I'll have your, the conceptual site plan up. And if there's anything else you want me to post, or if you need access to your computer, just let me know.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes,
Okay, we ready to go?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for your time. Anyway, thanks everyone for their time this evening, especially during the holidays. Carlos was very thorough, so sorry if a few of the things we're gonna say are a little bit repetitive of what he said, but I assume everyone is familiar with Dolores and Kenneth. Maybe you've driven down there since this meeting was scheduled, or maybe you knew already. It's two dead-end streets. They form a T basically off of Olive. And as Carlos had previously said, the western end of Kenneth is a separate subdivision. It's a private subdivision, and it's also a gravel street. The whole sort of area of Dolores and Kenneth sort of has been undeveloped. There hasn't been much going on like there is in a lot of other parts of Olivet, but we actually currently are building a house at the very end of Kenneth on the south side, 9328. And as part of that build process, we're working with the neighbors, and we're actually going to asphalt the street there to make it look a little more modern. And you know, when you drive down the street and you get to the gravel, it feels like you're going back in time. But anyway, we feel like there's the neighborhood's probably right for a lot of new development, and we're building a house there right now. So in addition, we have these two properties, 9325 and 9327, under contract. One has a house on it. One is a vacant lot. They're owned by the same family. And we would like to subdivide them, as Carlos said, into 3 lots for new construction. There's basically two variances. Again, repeating this, one is for the lot area, one's for the lot width. These two properties are in the G.W. Burney subdivision, which is kind of a crazy mixed up subdivision. There are these 8 houses here. However, several commercial properties on Olive are also in that subdivision. There's industrial property, part of the Honeywell properties in this subdivision. There's apartments, and even part of what was redeveloped for City Hall was part of this subdivision. So again, just like Carlos said, not sure how it got split like this, but the rest of Kenneth and all of Dolores is in Olivet Terrace. You know, what we feel is a better sort of measure of the subdivision or the neighborhood is including both streets together. I think I wrote this down. One thing Carlos said is something in the ordinance that said maintain neighborhood character. That's what we feel like we're trying to do here. If you look at Dolores, all those lots there are 50 feet except for that last one. And that one's in the process. I'm not sure where they are in the process of getting subdivided right now, or a proposal to be subdivided. Again, as someone said, the first few lots on Kenneth, in fact, are also 50 feet, including 2 new homes that were built in the last 10 or so years, 9316 and 9318. Those are newer houses that were built on 50-foot lots. There are, as Carlos also said, lots of 50-foot lots in Olivet. Andy and I have built several houses on 50-foot lots north of Olive. They turn out great. We've sold them. They look great. There's not a problem with that. You know, we just feel like that is a better representation of the neighborhood. It's one way in, it's one way out, and it just, when you drive in, it's what it feels like. So our lots will be almost 52 feet once you split them into 3. We don't feel like it'll look out of place with everything else that's in the neighborhood. I imagine there'll be more redevelopment coming down the road the way things are going in Olivet. And we just feel like, based on the entire neighborhood, what we feel is the entire neighborhood and other new houses that have been built and are going to be built, that it will just fit right in with the new neighborhood. And wouldn't look out of place at all. So that's sort of all I have to say. And if you have anything to add, Andy, or
Yeah.
any questions?
I just wanted to make a few sort of just quick statements that there was some discussion related to Carlos's calculations or the staff calculations being incorrect or ours being correct. Mark and I have always had a tremendous and the utmost respect for Carlos as well as the whole planning department. So it's not that we are disagreeing with his calculation. It's just that the code requires Carlos to use what's considered this actual platted subdivision where Mark and I feel that Dolores and Kenneth, as you enter it, it feels like one subdivision. 66, if you take the Dolores properties and all the Kenneth properties into consideration, 66 of those are 50 feet. I'm sorry, 66% of those are 50 feet wide. So again, we're not disagreeing with Carlos, that he's incorrect at all. We just have a different, I guess just a different way of trying to approach and slightly increase the density in the neighborhood.
But legally is what's defined as a subdivision.
Correct. So, I mean, yes, Carlos is correct. The GW Bernie estate is a legally recorded
Subdivision.
You know, it's hard to go back in time. I would, you know, I do enjoy history. I'd like to know how it happened, but Carlos and I spent some time on it. We never could figure out how that happened.
So I don't want to be confrontational, but basically you're indicating there that it looks to you like it should be one subdivision or so, but that's not what the county records show.
Correct. You're 100% 100% correct, Mr. Cicero. Sometimes when you see a subdivision or a neighborhood built and you see an addition put on it, there may be a signage that will change it. There'll be a noticeable feel. There's the average person would have no indication that there's a change of subdivision when you enter Dolores off of Olive and then head on to Kenneth.
I understand what you're saying.
But yeah, I'm not disagreeing with. I have the utmost respect for Carlos, hands down.
Any questions for the applicant? Any? None?
I have a quick question around this whole concept of a subdivision. So does this Bernie estate, does it have like, does it have its own association, like homeowners association or anything like that? Like to indicate that it's like a living, breathing subdivision, or is this just kind of a relic of the past where we've had this kind of around for a long time? The subdivision seems to have transformed substantially over time. So I mean, the code, I understand it's pretty clear in the code. It says subdivision and a recorded plat. But is there any other, like, is there a homeowners association or anything like that to indicate that it's more of a combined neighborhood, or any other evidence of that other than sort of the look and feel of it?
Relic of the past is a pretty good term for it. There is no neighborhood association. There are some handwritten indentures that we have a copy of. They're very hard to read, that talk about the street a little bit and some maintenance, but there's never been dues or fees or homeowners fees or any kind of association with the GW Bernie.
And also the fact that you've got several light industrial, commercial, and multifamily that are also platted that are part of the GW Bernie estate subdivision. Now, Carlos is correct. They are beyond the 200 foot radius, but so there are other properties that are part of this subdivision, but they're not, participating in any form.
So the street maintenance, I think Carlos said that it is not maintained by the city. I'm assuming snow removal.
That is correct.
Okay, so it's up to the residents of this subdivision, or they just don't clear the streets?
it's a little bit of, a little bit of a potpourri of not really clearing the streets. Carlos may have some information if they contract with Olivet to plow and then pay. Carlos, do you know?
Not that I'm aware of. I think the decision's been made in the past to kind of smooth out that transition. If there are like potholes or so, we've notified like the adjacent property owners. So it would be the two across the street. We're not aware of any, and even when there's a current house under construction at the far terminus on the western side, on the south end. Nobody, we met with property owners, but nobody identified themselves as the lead or so. Again, it's my professional opinion that it was part of a grander subdivision, and this is like a remnant piece that never, poor planning. That's what it was. Nobody ever combined it or looked at it to consider it, to bring it in or bring at least the road up to speed when either subdivision on either side, whether it was Dolores or Llewellyn on the west, was put together.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, we're in discussions with the other neighbors because of the other house we're building there to asphalt the street, and at that point, we'll have to come up with a plan to contract to do the snow removal. But my guess right now is no one's doing anything, mostly because it's gravel, and I don't know that you could even plow gravel. So my guess is nothing's happening right now.
All 8 lots in that subdivision are minimum of 60 feet. So to put smaller lots in there would change the overall appearance of larger properties.
If you just take
About that,
Yeah, you correct. That's therein lies the discussion that we had with Carlos, that if you take just the GW Bernie versus the Olivet Terrace has a majority of 50-foot wide lots.
yeah, they're pretty uniform in Olivet Terrace, but the lots in this particular, that whole part of that cul-de-sac are larger properties. And so you'd be making narrower properties in, an area that has a little more space around the other homeowners. I guess we haven't heard of it from other homeowners, how they felt about it. Have you spoken to other nearby owners about smaller lot sizes, or putting the three homes together like that?
Sure, that's a great question. So the owners of 90, I guess it's 9322, where they're currently they've experienced the most amount of drainage problems, water problems, runoff problems because the lack of the street. So they've been kind of the go-to contact for us. We haven't had a chance to go over all the details. I did let them know in our discussions about replacing or installing a new street. But this is one of the things that we wanted to discuss as well.
But that makes no difference if you're building 3 or 2.
I'm sorry?
That makes no difference if you're building 3 houses or 2 houses.
To the owners, you said, does it make a difference?
Well, no, it will obviously, but in terms of what we're looking at here today, we're looking at 3 houses being built on a lot for 2, or 2 lots, one on each. You're asking to build a third in what would normally be 2 places.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, let's
Or I'm asking to create 3 52-ish foot wide.
Understand. I just want to make clear that's exactly what we're talking about here.
Yes.
We were just answering the question about the neighbors.
Yeah. So to answer we've been very active with the neighbors on the gravel street. One, because we're building a home at 9328, and 2, it's good to be a good neighborly individual to say, here's what we're doing, here's what we're proposing. Just be very, just have a good dialogue. I'm a very approachable, Mark and I are very approachable people. If someone has questions or concerns, I just want to talk to them.
So just to be clear, that you did not discuss with them yet that you wanted to put 3 buildings on a 2-building lot.
We have discussed it over emails and text messages. We haven't had a chance to meet in person. The last in-person meeting we had about 2 weeks ago was with some of the neighbors on the weekend, specifically about street improvements and repavement and drainage.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, Carlos, let's close this section and,
Chairman, before closing, there is an attendee,
okay,
and I need to check if they'd like to speak. If there is anybody in the public that'd like to speak in regards to this petition in terms of the public hearing portion, if you can show raise your hand. It's usually located on the lower portion of the Zoom meeting screen. All right, Chairman, I do have one person. I'm going to promote the panel.
Right. Thank you.
Jim Persons.
We need to have him sworn in, please.
Yes.
Okay.
1 second. Let me get Mr.
I'm trying to
Persons
get
over.
you. Hold on. Mr. I forgot your name. What was your name again?
1 second. I'm still getting everything transferred. All right, Mr. Person, I think I have you. You're transferred over, but right now I show you're muted and your video is off.
Let me see. How can you stand the?
All right, your video has come up, but you're still muted, Jim. All right.
There we go.
All right.
Okay,
The first thing,
he's-
one of the board members is going to swear you in because it is a zoning board of adjustment does require that.
Okay.
Okay, do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board of this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. You can just go ahead.
Okay, I live at 9345 Llewellyn, which is the subdivision immediately west of the Kenneth Street area. And essentially what I'm concerned about is not as much this particular Kenneth Street, but how we are moving toward smaller lots as we're beginning to do infill housing. And I think the concern that I have is just, is this the direction that the board wants to go? And if it is, I can work with that. But at the same time, I look at other streets like Harvest Lane or Cherry Tree, whatever it is over west of us, and just see how the infill housing has worked there. And the lots seem to be getting smaller and smaller. The 51 feet seems to be pretty small. I mean, that's almost a 0 lot line kind of a situation. I understand how the developer wants to do this because it works on the space and perhaps makes the economics work better. But I would urge the group to consider just what are the implications of this as we move forward.
Thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions? Any questions for Jim at all? All right. Carlos, if we can close the public.
All right. All right, Mr. Persons, Mr. Rubin, Mr. Cohen, I'm going to put you back as panelists. If there's any questions, we'll bring you right back. And they're the commission, the board is now going to consider their the public hearing evidence and have their discussion, and then they'll arrange for a motion. And then again, I'll note in advance, all motions are made in a positive fashion, and then a vote is taken.
So the motions are the appeal of request 1, then 2A and 2B, is that how it's broken down?
Mhm.
So 2A and 2B will be the second. It's a joint motion, in other words. The first.
It would be one of the
Isn't it,
two, based on what decision the board has, and I
Appeal
do have
request
it
1 is what we're considering right now, right?
correct.
Okay.
And then that determines the degree of the area variance that would be necessary in request number 2 or motion 2.
Guys, what are your thoughts?
I think by the nature of my question, you probably know what my thoughts are. It's pretty clear the lot is going to be very small. I think it's going to get smaller. I think building 3 houses there is really what the goal is. And I understand the economics of it. If you can build 3 instead of 2, it's great. But I think it does diminish the size of a lot. I think as they alluded to, and I don't want to indicate that they didn't, Carlos, apply the numbers correctly. The 60-foot variance is immutable. And the law is pretty specific to state that you cannot build under 60 feet. So from my perspective, there's really nothing to discuss. It's clear.
I would agree.
I would agree. I think the calculation is pretty, is correct in the way that Carlos laid it out, and agree. Lot size would be very small. And also, it doesn't seem like, even though this is an old subdivision, it doesn't seem like the whole area is really integrated into sort of one like look and feel. Maybe there may be a look and feel to it, but it doesn't seem like it is acting as one kind of neighborhood or subdivision or homeowners association. If there was that kind of an evidence, then I could maybe be a little bit more flexible on the calculation to include those other homes. But it doesn't appear to be that way.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? Or are we going to put this to a vote?
Okay, Chairman, I do have the motions that I can put up on the screen.
Do we need to read them into the record?
Yes.
So it would be somebody making the motion. Recommended language is noted there.
Okay, if you want me, I'll go ahead and read it.
Please.
I can hardly see it though. Motion first, I'm sorry, appeal 1 is administrative interpretation. Motion 2, and concur with the petitioner that there is an error in the determination made by staff in the calculation of the lot size standard under section 400.240 and authority of variation to include the 29 lots listed in the initial proposed application conceptual site plan dated October 8th, 2021.
And just to clarify, if we vote no on this one, we don't get to 2A or 2B, correct?
You will
Okay.
in there, but the degree of the variance request will be, the area of variance request will be different.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so Carlos, would you like to call?
Well, Chairman, right now I have the Mr. Cicero making the motion. Is there a second?
Yes, thank you.
Second.
Second? All right, good.
I second.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Malik? Okay, I will conduct a roll call vote. And again, this is to grant and concur with the petitioner that the way staff calculated was incorrect. Commissioner Zobel,
No.
Board Member Malik,
No.
Board Member Weber,
No,
Board Member Cicero,
No,
Chairman Gerstein.
No.
That motion fails. So what happens next is then you will be considering, and this is what ultimately what the petitioner was seeking to submit, is a request for an area variance. The degree or the extent of variance was unclear. But now that a decision's been made of what calculation to use, they're seeking an area variance to submit, to allow a reduction of 5,475 square feet and a reduction in lot width of 16.7 feet based on staff's calculations. Those calculations required a 13,000 square foot plus minimum lot area and a 67.7 foot minimum lot width. So you are now looking at, item or request A regarding the area variance. What you see here in B is no longer valid based on the board's last decision. If there's any questions, I hope that's clear.
I'm sorry, the pictures of all of us are on the right-hand side, which were blocking my ability to read the motion earlier. So if I misstated it, sorry about that. I don't have any discussion on that motion. I think it's,
Right, so we need to read the motion.
motion to grant an area variance to permit the a reduction in the variation. I just can't read it.
Right.
I can go ahead and read it. No
Okay,
problem.
if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. No worries. Motion to grant an area variance to permit a reduction in the variation of lot size under section 400.240 for a 3-lot subdivision to be known as 9325 and 9327 Kenneth Place, with a reduction in lot area totaling 5,475 square feet, 41.7%, and lot width of 16.7 feet, 24.7%, to as illustrated in the conceptual site plan dated 10/28/2021. Under section 400.240, the calculated variation of lot size is a minimum lot area of 13,125 square feet and minimum lot width of 67.7 feet.
And Chairman, I'll note that site plan was dated October 8th, 2021. I apologize for my error on that.
Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you.
On the motion to grant the variance as submitted. Board Member Zobel,
No.
Board Member Malik,
No.
Board Member Weber,
No.
and Chairman Gerstein.
No.
The motion fails. All right. So at this point, then the petition application has as submitted. The standing of it being denied continues. We'll reach out to the applicants tomorrow and discuss their options.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great new year. I appreciate again all the time and volunteer work you guys do for us and
You as well. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Carlos.
guys.
All right.
Bye,
Take care,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Ted.
Okay, I'm trying to sign off. I can't. I can't get on and I can't get off. It's all right.
All right, I'm